Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Dennis McCurdy, a financial advisor, entrepreneur, Air Force Security Forces veteran, and author who knows what it means to start from the bottom and build a remarkable life. From working at just 12 years old and struggling through school to becoming a millionaire by the age of 36, Dennis has built businesses, invested in real estate, and helped countless people overcome procrastination, self doubt, and the habits that keep them stuck. His latest book, Suck It Up, Cupcake, Stop Screwing Yourself and Get the Life You Want, combines humor with practical advice on creating the life you truly want. Dennis, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Sekani. I noticed the little smile when you when you read the title of the book.
All right, it's I would say it's cute, right? And it's okay. I like the book, and yes, we'll talk more about the book. But before we do, right? I want you to take us back to your 20s, right? What was life like in your 20s and what dreams or ambitions were driving you then?
That's a long time ago. Jeez.
Mm,
So what was I thinking? My early 20s, I was, because I was coming out of the military and didn't really know what I wanted to do. So, people have asked me that before. Uh,
mm,
I just started to go to a community college after the military just because that's what everybody was doing and said that's what you're supposed to do, right? So I did
mm,
that and but so I did that, but I didn't necessarily love college. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I thought, well, maybe I'll be a teacher or something. I don't know.
mm,
One day I was actually at a coffee shop in my local town and I ran into two friends of mine who were they were buddies in high school, both of them also veterans, and they were talking about opening up a real estate business and an insurance company. And they were like
mm,
23 and 25. And I went, you can just do that? You can just start a business? And they went, yeah, we're going to do that. And so that was my first, I think, eye-opening thing or realization that you can just find something you want to do and start it and build it. And so
mm,
from then on, I got really focused on building businesses, creating business, trying things. When I started doing real estate, which didn't work out so well, but then I realized that I learned a lot while I was in real estate, things I just did not know. And so I would say, everything we try becomes a learning experience and makes us smarter and actually more valuable in the marketplace. So what I learned early on in that real estate failure basically was were things about contracts and building and construction and all these things I didn't had no idea. And all of those things helped me start my own companies. I ended up, owning a lot of real estate. I ended up building houses. I ended up having my own real estate company at one point, besides my insurance and financial business. So everything we learn just kind of builds on everything else. And that's really important to realize. And basically, I like the saying, you know, fail forward. In other words, take
mm,
your failures and move forward with them and learn more from them or learn to use them.
mm. Well, fail forward, right? Okay. So, I would like to ask, right, was there like a moment in your 20s where you realized that your life could take a completely different, direction.
Well, that was when when I discovered after the failure in real estate, I was really depressed. Uh,
Hmm.
and because I didn't know, what to do, where to go next. and that's when what I did in the interim is I got two jobs because I knew how to work. And
Right.
so I figured I could work. So I worked a 5 day job, 40 hours, and then I worked 4 nights a week tending bar. And I
Mm,
was able to save a lot of money in that period of time. At the same time, I began studying for my insurance license. So I ended up opening up my own insurance agency. Uh, and then from there, I added the real estate and the financial planning and the building and all those things. And I
mm,
realized that one thing, if you stay in your certain genre, one thing can add up or lead to another. So you keep building that business with all the little side businesses, and pretty soon you've got a whole, I don't know, maybe a whole mess. I don't know. You got a whole bunch of stuff. But it makes it more fun too because you're always learning new stuff. You're always doing new stuff, and a lot of things, kind of work together. You know, or so one thing builds on another, and I don't know if that's a great answer, but that's what happens, I think.
Wow, it's a great answer actually. I'd like to say thank you for sharing your story with us. Right. And now I want us to touch on entrepreneurship, success, and mindset, right? So you've
Mhm.
launched 10 businesses throughout your career. So what do you think separates people who take action from those who stay stuck in planning?
Yeah, that's always a good question. My philosophy has always been ready, fire, aim. So instead of fire, ready, fire, aim, just don't, people get stuck, as you just said, in planning and planning and planning. I think you just have to pull the trigger and take some action. You just have to start. Now, start, as I said, the first chapter of my book, Suck It Up Cupcake, was start. And the
Mm,
start is one of the hardest things that people uh, come across. They just get stuck in that fear. What if it doesn't work? What if I'm not smart enough? What if this? It's the old what ifs. You know,
mm,
I think anytime you say what if, maybe you got to think about, instead of, most people go what if negative, you go, well, what if it works?
right.
What if I can do better? What if I can learn more? What if I can create a better widget or a better business? Um, Too often we get stuck in our imagination on the wrong side of the what if. What if things go bad? What if it doesn't work? What if I'm not smart enough? What if I can't get enough money? All those things. And so it goes back to, I remember you were talking to Andrew Parr. They talked a lot about
Mm,
mindset. It's
right.
all about developing your mindset as you go forward. You're going to make
Mm,
mistakes. You're going to fail. You're going to feel dumb sometimes, but that's just part of the process.
mm. Wow. All right. And I remember speaking with a guest, right, that said most of us were always stuck in the what if phase, whether negative or positive, right? You see some people that would say, oh, what if it works out? What if this business, grows? What if? But they are just stuck there in their imagination without actually taking action. So the right question to ask yourself, instead of what if, why don't you ask yourself, what can I do to get to where I want, right? Rather than asking what if, ask yourself, what can I do to get this business to grow? What can I do to get more clients, right? When you ask, what can I do? You find yourself starting to, do the necessary things rather than just stuck in what if, and stuff like that. So I feel like that is also really important, right? So yeah,
I
and
really like that. I really like that a lot. That's a really good
mm,
phrase, and it's a really good mindset.
honestly, yeah. All right, so your book, right? It makes me laugh. I don't know. It's called "Talk It Up, Cupcake." So, what's the
Yeah.
message behind that title, and why do you think people sometimes become their own biggest obstacle?
Well, I think we're all our own I can't talk. I think we're all our own biggest obstacle. That's basically the
Mm,
truth. In fact, I think it was Aristotle. who said, you know, conquering, it's not about conquering other people. Life is about conquering ourselves, getting over our fears and our negative behaviors and all of those doubts, all those things that stop us. And that's
mm,
what, so in a way, we have to suck it up. We have to suck it up and say, time to get going. Stop lying to yourself and stop making excuses. My friend Charlie would
mm,
say, stop looking for excuses like there's a reward because there's no reward for
mm,
excuses. You know,
mm.
but
Wow.
again, recognizing, I think that no matter what you do, I like this. I can't remember the guy's name, but he said, for every level, there's another devil.
Mm,
So even if you're already in business or already starting to be successful, every time you go to another level, you get new doubt, you get new fear, and it's just a matter of, working to push through those things.
mm,
And actually, my newest book, which is called Unleash the Power of Connection,
mm,
talks about that because one of the biggest things and best things we can do is realize that we're not in this alone, and that if we can find a mentor, an accountability partner, uh, join a mastermind group, which is a group of people that are working on goals and dreams uh, that help us build accountability because, and also who sometimes will believe in us more than we believe in ourselves when we're doing something new. Because anytime you, again, another level, another devil. Anytime you start something
mm,
new, your imagination goes wild with you again.
mm,
And we think of all these things that can go wrong, or we get comfortable. And so I think life is just a series of, getting uncomfortable, then getting comfortable again, then getting uncomfortable again, and keep moving forward.
mm. Wow. Oh, all right. The phrase that stood out for me, right? I'm just hearing it for the first time. For every level, there's a devil, right? I don't know if I'm
Yes.
saying that correctly.
Yeah, for
Wow.
every level,
Hmm.
there's another devil. Yeah, that's true. It's
There's
just
another
another
devil.
obstacle. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And this book by Mark Manson, right? The Subtle Art of Not, I
Giving a
read the
yes.
yes. So when I read the book, there's a part where it says we are all making choices, right? And
Yes.
for every level you get, there's always a problem, right? If, for instance, Elon Musk, he has money problem, right? Then there's also the beggar in your street. He also has money problems. So both of them they have
Right.
problems, right? But it is not the same, but they do have problems. So whatever level you find in your life, wherever level you find yourself in, rather, there will always be a problem associated with that level. So it's just left for you to, embrace it, try to, get better, embrace that problem, try to,
Hmm.
solve it. Although when you're solving it, you also find something else to solve. I mean, it's just how life works. There's always something to solve, right? So it's
Right.
just a part of life, honestly. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All
The
right.
the only people who don't have problems are the people in the cemetery, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow.
Uh,
Hmm.
there's a famous economist named Thomas Sowell,
Mm,
Sowell. He's like
wow.
95 years old and he's brilliant. But one of the things he says is there are no solutions in life. There are only trade-offs. And so
Mm,
when you're doing something like we're talking about going forward and starting new things, the trade-off is you have to give up your fear, trade your fear for action.
mm,
And
free.
then
Hmm.
you might get some, and then you'll get results.
Right. Trade off. Trade your fear for action. Wow. All right, Dennis. I'm so happy I'm getting to learn a lot. At least now I know what I'm gonna tell my next guest, right? I said Dennis
There you
fan.
go.
Right.
And
Okay. Hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
why I go back to getting that support I talked about a couple of minutes ago because
Mm,
when we're with somebody or we have support, it it's just easier for us to go
mm.
forward. As human beings, we're not meant to do everything alone. Uh,
Alone. Yeah.
and I'm sure Elon Musk doesn't do everything alone. He has people he counts on,
Yeah.
people that support him. Everyone needs support. And if
Right.
you can find that person or those people in your life that will, be there for you, but also will kick you in the butt when you need it. Or
Hmm.
I like to say sometimes kick you in your butts, your yeah, but this, yeah, but that,
Hmm. Wow.
because we all need it.
Right. Exactly. We all need it. Oh.
I
Hmm.
know.
Okay. Right. I'm thinking of a whole lot of things, honestly. I'm trying to, put things into words, right? But first, one thing a lot of people suffer from, specifically younger adults, right? It's procrastination. That's like a very big problem amongst young adults. So it affects, should I say, almost everyone at some point. So from your experience, what would you say is really happening beneath the surface when people keep, putting off their goals?
I don't know. I'm procrastinating on that thought. Um, but,
Hmm.
I mean, everybody procrastinates. I procrastinate. Everyone, every human being. I think it's very rare that we don't find somebody who procrastinates. So, number one, you shouldn't beat yourself up about it.
Hmm.
You should, though, and I'm shooting on people, you should think about why you procrastinate. Is it because I'm afraid? Is it because it's boring? Is it because it's too big? That's why oftentimes I'm a big proponent of when people get stuck to start to break something down to so small that you can't, it's silly not to do it. But
Hmm.
that creates some momentum because what happens is our brains want to keep us safe. It's normal, it's natural. It doesn't want you to go out and make $1 million. It doesn't want you to go out and start a business. It doesn't want you to go out and do anything. It wants to just keep you huddled in the corner and alive. And so we need to understand that and uh, fly under the radar. So sometimes if we take steps that are small enough, our brain doesn't necessarily pick up on it so much. It doesn't go like, oh, that's a big deal. No, it's nothing. Let them do it. And so, again, starting small, but not only starting small, but just being consistent as you move forward with small steps. I think in one of the books I wrote about micro habits or micro steps, because uh, once you get going, there's that old Newton's law: a body in motion stays in motion. The key is to get in motion. And
Hmm.
it doesn't matter how small it is. Sometimes I mean, look up somebody's phone number, send an email, ask one person. It doesn't really matter as long as you're moving forward a little bit every day.
Hmm.
And know that fear will keep coming back, but you have to like punch it in the nose or something.
That's right. Wow. Hmm. All right. So basically, tiny steps, right?
Tiny
And
steps.
tiny steps, honestly. And yes, another thing is you've accumulated success across businesses, investing, and financial advising. So looking back, what principle have remained constant regardless of the industry?
Show up every day.
Hmm.
There's the secret. I mean, you got to show up every day. Some days, I remember actually one day I was driving to work, to the office, and I was
Hmm.
complaining to myself in my head, like, oh, what am I doing? I got to work so hard. I got to go there. We got to do this. And I stopped myself and I said, wait a second, you're the boss. You don't have to go in. And I said,
Hmm.
therefore, if I go in, that's the thing I want to do. That's my choice. And so realize that
Hmm.
everything is a choice. Um, and so that as we go along, we're making new choices every day. I hope this all makes sense. And we have to realize that, going to work every day is a choice, but it's a good choice. And that's building that consistency no matter what business it is, no matter if you're writing a book, no matter if you're running a business, no matter if you're an employee, that going in and being consistent every day is the way you get ahead in life. It can be with your
Hmm.
finances, right? A little bit of money,
Right.
put away every week or every month builds up versus a little bit of spending every day. builds down.
mm, mm.
So be
Wow.
consistent.
Build consistency, right? Be consistent, and
Yep.
you can
Doesn't have
start
to be big.
renewing. Mm,
Right.
right. Oof, okay. So yes, thank you for that one, actually. Right. And it reminds me of a conversation I had with a guest, a doctor, that said, I asked what's like the biggest health myth that he has heard so far, and it was
Hmm.
like 10,000 steps. Right.
Hmm. But
So
don't
I
say
laughed
that.
because
Don't say that because I do 10,000 steps every day. And it's been 8 years. I have not missed one day.
wow, okay. That is great, actually. Great consistency. But what
Yes.
I'm
But,
trying to say is,
and the whole point is that you're just doing something. That's
mhm,
the thing.
right, exactly. You just do something. Baby
Hmm.
steps. You could take 1,000 steps. You could take
Right.
2,000 steps. It doesn't necessarily have to get to 10,000 as long as you're doing something consistently, right? For
Yes.
instance, you said you've been doing this 8 years now. Wow.
Hmm.
Oh, that takes a lot of wow,
Well,
it takes a lot of strength, honestly.
Well, you know what happens
And
though? See,
discipline.
I would to not. I've done it. If I'm sick, I still get up and do my 10,000 steps. It
Wow.
creates as you do it, it creates that like I'm not going to quit. So right now I'm doing little
Mm,
videos, like 1 or 2 minute videos. My minimum goal, 2 to 5 minutes. I've done like I think 100 of them. Uh,
mm,
and I keep a little check mark on when I do it, and I get mad if I miss a day.
mm,
So I think once we create that routine or habit, and that's one of the secrets, is to start slow, but make things a habit, make it a routine that you
mm,
can do. I mean, I do 1,000 steps in the morning before I leave the bedroom,
wow.
you know,
Okay,
but it's
like you said.
but it's just like creating those little habits that you can do that will move you forward. And if you do them
Mm,
all the time, they will move you forward.
wow. Oof. All right. So like you said, make it a habit, right? You don't have to um start at the very, very top, right? You just need to start little, right? Baby steps, and
Right.
make sure you make it into a habit. I think there's this I don't know if it's a philosophy or something that they say if you do something consistently for 20 days or 21 days, it becomes a habit, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, right. So
Sometimes
if
it
you're
takes
able to
longer, but yeah. Well, remember when you were talking to Angie, we was talking about Hebbian networks, which is your neurons that fire together, wire together.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
anytime you do an activity or do something, you're firing neurons in your brain, and
Hmm.
as you continue to do it, those webs get stronger, and the activity becomes more automatic
Right.
and easier. And that's the secret. Make your brain work for you, right? Not against you.
Not against you, exactly. Wow. All right. So yes, thank you so much, Dennis. This has been amazing, honestly. Right. And before I ask my final question, I would like to ask, you often emphasize on mental toughness, right? So how can young adults build resilience without becoming emotionally disconnected or burning themselves out?
Wow. Well, that's a good question. That's why I'm stalling here.
Mm,
It, again, it goes back to Aristotle. It's everything is about conquering ourselves. That we should
mm,
realize that, you know, some things are going to happen in life, and they just happen. And then I like this saying. Somebody once said, I read somewhere where the guy said, everything in your life to this point you've handled, and
mm,
you're still here. So that means whatever you're facing now, you can handle. And each time you handle something, you get more confidence, your identity becomes stronger, and you can do more.
mm. Wow. Oof, all right. So yes, thank you, Dennis. Thank you. And my podcast is for young adults who are just, trying to figure out life, and not, get lost right along the way. And many people in their 20s, they compare themselves to others, right? Comparison is a big thing now,
Oh,
especially
can't do
with,
that.
the advent of social media and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, yeah, what would you say to someone who feels like they are starting too late, or probably they feel behind because they are seeing people doing, better and stuff like that?
Well, who knows if they're really doing better? I just wrote an article for our
Mm.
financial planning newsletter today, and it said, do you want to be rich or you want to look like you're rich? And
Hmm.
there are
Wow.
two different things. One of them is I go out and I buy a nice house, or I buy a big car, I buy all these things. I look like I'm rich, but I'm really broke. The other one is I don't look so rich, but I am. And so the same applies to anything. It's like don't worry about what other people are doing. Only worry about what you're doing with yourself to
Mm,
improve yourself every single day. And some days
mm,
you're going to fail, but try not to do it. Not try not to mess up 2 days in a row. Um,
mm,
so don't worry about other people. Be who you are, because you can't compare yourself. It's like me comparing myself as I do some stand-up comedy, but it's like me comparing myself to Jerry Seinfeld. Well, he's been doing it 25, 30 years. How can I compare
mm,
myself?
right,
You know?
right.
And everybody has their own magic. It's just finding your own magic, not somebody else's.
Mm, mm. Wow. All right. Okay. So yes, thank you for that. And like you said, don't compare yourself, right? And one
Right.
thing, yes, there's something they say, right? We all have different realities, right? The people you
Yes.
compare yourself to, they have a totally different reality from your own. So what
Hmm.
should matter to you is, you know, your own life, right? That is the only thing that should matter to you. Whoever you should compare yourself to should be yourself, right? Compare
Right.
yourself now to who you were before. Compare
Right.
yourself, now to who you want to be later in life. And that way you get to make conscious decisions to be better, right? But do not
Hmm.
compare yourself to someone else, honestly. So yes,
Right.
thank you, Dennis. Honestly, this has been amazing. And before you go, I'd like us to move to the final segment. I call it the rapid fire segment, right? You could
Okay.
either you could answer with a word or a phrase starting now. So what is one word that describes your 20s?
Uh, Confusion. Well, let me confusion and work. 'Cause as soon as I started finding a path to follow that I thought had a future, I just put myself into it.
Mm. Wow. Okay. So
So
what is one word?
commitment,
Commitment. Okay. So what is a word that describes you now?
consistency,
Consistency. Wow. Okay, so what is the best financial habit everyone should develop?
consistency,
Right, consistency. Very important.
consistency.
Right. So what is a book that has changed your perspective?
Oh God, I've read so many books. I think one of them, which is a very old book, was a guy named Joseph Murphy who wrote this book around 1964, and it was called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And I think that started the process of me understanding how our mind works and how our beliefs work and how important
Mm.
they are to creating our mindset and our identity and how we move forward.
Wow, the power of
The subconscious
your
mind, your
the
subconscious mind.
subconscious mind.
Yeah,
Okay. The
yeah.
author's name?
Joseph Murphy.
Joseph Murphy. Right. Wow. Okay. And finally, what is one piece of advice every 20 something should hear?
Suck it up, Cupcake. Get out there and do it.
Exactly. Well, all right. So yes, thank you, Dennis. And before you go, where can listeners get to learn more about you and also connect with you?
If they want to connect with me, they can simply Google DennisMcCurdy.com or Dennis McCurdy, and it'll come up
Mm.
DennisMcCurdy.com. And my other businesses will also come up. especially if they put in Massachusetts, where I live.
Mm.
And if they reach out to me, I'll be happy to answer questions. There's some free resources on my website, and be happy to help them.
All right. Wow. And I'm gonna put the link in the show notes so it's, easily accessible for listeners, right? And to my listeners, I would say thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone you think might need this, and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, Dennis. Do you have a wonderful day ahead of you?
Thank you.